Hey everyone, welcome to Marvel-ous Movie Mondays. Happy Monday, November 18th. It is Kelsey and Dill. Kelsey, how you doing? Happy Monday. Welcome back to the show. A chill
I'm
day.
doing
No post-election, no Halloween, nothing special, just a regular old Monday. How you doing?
just a regular old Monday. My fingers are covered in flour because I'm in the middle of baking a pumpkin pie completely from scratch, dough, pumpkin, and all. So,
So you like grew the
it's-
pumpkin or you like carved you scooped the pumpkin? Like how far when you say pumpkin from scratch?
so I didn't grow the pumpkin myself. I bought the pumpkin from a farmer's market and I just baked it in the oven and scooped out all the good flesh for the pie.
Mm.
And I'm in the middle of trying to get this crust together, and it's not working out for some reason, and I don't know how to fix it.
It's okay. That's
All
why I
right.
don't bake. I cook, I don't bake. Because cooking, you can add and subtract whatever you want. Baking, it has to be exact, and if it's not,
Right.
it's a mess. And I just can't be exact. I can't be precise. Um, yeah, we are here to talk about episode 8 of Agatha All Along. I know we said last week we're gonna do both, but we're gonna let you sit and marinate and keep you in some more suspense. Also, because this episode so much happened that it makes sense that we're gonna kind of devote our own episode to it. Because I mean, how do you just like breeze over the fact that our main character, titular character, is now dead? Like that, that's a biggie. It's a big deal.
Right.
Kels, did you like this episode? I mean, I know we usually get into business and stuff, but you've got a pie to bake. We've got a heart out. We got a big episode to talk about, so I figured we'd just dive right in. What do you think of this one? What do you think of this one?
Um, I liked this episode. I think that it's definitely reminiscent of all the episodes that we've seen so far when it comes to the Marvel TV shows, where it just feels like it's leading up to some bigger finale. So it definitely feels like a transition episode to the next
Hmm.
thing. I mean, we did get a some answers as to like what's going on with Rio. We did get this kind of final moment with Agatha. We did get a character kind of reveal, if you will, in a costume and all, which was
Hmm.
cool. Um, but I don't know. It just obviously it ends on kind of like a cliffhanger type of deal. So I
Yeah.
just feel like comparing it to episode 7, which was so strong, is like
Mhm.
nothing was gonna live up to that.
Right. Well, it's funny because you said this feels very transitionary. I think for teen story it does, and probably for the overall series it does. But I felt this had major series finale energy for me. Like this felt
Mm,
like I think if they hadn't done that last scene with Teen, this could be the end of the show. Like I know there has to be some sort of final conclusion to say like what was the point of it all, which we're gonna get in episode 9, which everyone's gotten already, so don't spoil it for us. But
mhm,
it's one
mhm,
of those things where as soon as she died and turned to flowers, I'm like, that's it. Like, what? There's another episode now. Like, I
right.
just it felt like the final, like it felt like the final battle between Rio and Agatha. Like, we literally saw it. There was a battle, and then one lived, one died. Locke, not Locke. Billy, I called him by his last name, Joe Locke. Teen or Billy like helped out, and there was a final battle. There was a result, and that's why I actually felt like this was more series finale energy than like transition for me because I was like, where else do we go from here? And I guess to your point, yeah, there's another episode, so this feels transitionary to what it's going to lead to next. But I don't think we're going to end in a big battle the way we have in a lot of them because it felt like that this was the big battle. Because like you said, we usually have a transitionary like 11 o'clock number before the finale where we then have this big battle. We saw it with WandaVision, we saw it with Hawkeye, all these shows. But like I feel like this felt like the big battle. Like I don't know if they go further
Mm,
from here. I feel like the last episode almost is going to feel like an epilogue or just kind of showing us what's next for Joe Locke's character. Like I don't know where else they go from here. And I guess we get a cliffhanger, but I'm like I don't even know what that could be. I mean I have a guess, but it's like I don't know. This felt very final. It was very weird for a penultimate episode to feel this final, and have
Dill,
everything queerness also that they've been building to with Agatha and Rio, this final
yeah.
makeout sesh. Like everything felt like it had finally hit that peak. So now it's like, now where do we go? you know?
Right. I guess for me, it's just coming from a place where, like, yeah, we saw Agatha die and turn to flowers. I just don't know if I actually buy that. I don't know if
Mhm.
this all ends in Agatha's death, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. And the weird thing is it's not, because there's a whole nother episode, and we know she's credited for all 9. So it's not like she's not gonna be in the last episode in some way
Right.
to perform. But before we even recap, I just wanna ask you, where do you think this show, I guess we could probably save this to the end, where does it go? But the freshest question on everyone's brains is like, what is it the last episode even gonna be, you know?
Mhm. Mhm. Um Well, obviously, we still have like a few more answers to get with Teen because of the whole last
Right.
moment with him. And like I said from episode 7, like I do think that this ends in kind of like a beginning almost of a journey of an arc for Teen, I'm still calling him Teen.
Billy. Yeah.
Billy to find Tommy,
Yeah, and they tease that a lot in
you
this
know?
episode too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I just felt like this is all stuff that I figured would happen in the last episode, save for the Billy stuff, which you just mentioned. Like, I feel like Billy has
Right.
more story to tell. I don't think there's more story to tell with Rio and Agatha. I really think that's it. And I know they're gonna have to
Mm,
find a way to bring Agatha into the finale of her show. So I think that's another thing too, is you call it Agatha all along, and Agatha dies in episode 8. It's like, okay, like
right.
Game of. Nah, I'm not gonna spoil it for you, but like Game of Thrones, like the main characters sometimes die, but the shows aren't named after the main characters. It's named after the Game of Thrones. You know,
Right.
it's not like your titular character. Um, and for a show like The Sopranos, it's like when your titular character dies, the show dies. Like it literally just cuts to black. Like
Mm,
I think it's just so interesting that like this show, I've never seen this. I've never seen it where like your main character that is the titular character dies before the end. I can't think of any other examples off the top of my head, but every main character death is in a show that's not named after them. You know, Game of Thrones,
right.
Succession, all these shows. So I just I don't know. I'm like I'm just trying to piece it all together and figure out where we go from here. But I don't know. I'm excited to find out. But
Yeah.
yeah.
So let's start from the beginning, Dill.
Yeah.
Agatha All Along, episode 8, titled Follow Me, My Friend, to Glory at the End. And the only kind of synopsis that you get for this episode, if you look on Disney Plus, is just the end of the road. So
Right, which is so
very
crazy because it's not the last
ominous.
episode. It's
Yeah, I
okay.
know.
I bailed you out of that one by cutting you off, so you don't
Thank
even say the
thank you.
word. I know what you meant. Mhm.
You know what I was trying to say.
I know
Anyway,
exactly what you're saying.
so we flash back kind of back to the third trial that was the 80s themed trial in the treehouse with the Ouija board,
Yeah.
and we are back with Alice, who is being greeted by death. I was kind of excited to see her again. I was like, oh my god, did Alice find a way to make it out of this? When in reality, she was just being greeted by death, who was taking her to some kind of afterlife. Really
Yeah.
heartbreaking moment when she
Yeah, she's
realized
pissed.
like that was it. And she was like, I had just broken the curse. Like I can actually start living my life now, and this is the end.
Yeah.
And it was such a like
Sucker punch. Yeah.
such a sucker punch. And plus, all Rio had to say about it was like, you're a protection witch. You die protecting someone. Like that's it.
Like, what's the
That's what you were
problem?
meant to
Yeah.
do.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. No
So then
empathy.
we're
Rio has 0 empathy in the show. And I
yeah,
think she's all the better character for it, but yeah.
yeah. I mean, I guess it's hard to have empathy when you're literally the embodiment of death and you just deal with people like
Right.
groveling and being upset all the time.
Oh,
Because
absolutely.
literally the first thing Alice said was like, "That's it, that's all I get." And she was like, "If I had a nickel for every time I heard that," you know what I mean? She's been at this a while.
Yeah.
So we're back at the door to the latest trial that we saw where Lilia had just sacrificed herself. Obviously Jen is banging on it. She's taking Lilia's departure really poorly. And we see Agatha is back onto the road already with Rio. And they have this whole conversation revolving around Billy because Rio says that he's an abomination. He's messing with the sacred order of things because he stole a second life. He was supposed to die, but now he has taken this second life. And obviously, death doesn't like that so much. So Agatha's like, listen, if you want him, just like take him. Like, I don't have a special connection with this kid. And Rio's like, you do, but it's okay.
Yeah.
But Rio can't take him anyway because even if Rio does kill him, Billy would find a way to reincarnate anyway, and then he would be lost to the 7 billion people on the planet, and
Yeah.
Rio wouldn't be able to find him. So she needs Billy to surrender to her willingly. That's the only way that this is going to work. Jen and Billy are sitting with Lilia's death, and they kind of recap Agatha and Rio's whole relationship, and they decide like, where is she? Like, let's go find her. Like, finish this road. So, oh yeah, and then to amend this whole Rio Agatha drama they got going on, Agatha says, I promise that at the end of this, I will get the boy to surrender to you willingly. But in return, I would like you to stop fucking with my life. Like, leave me alone. And when I die, which is going to be a very long time from now, I don't want it to be you who greets me. And Rio's like, deal.
Yeah,
So
which
now we know.
immediately I clocked. I was like, well, we know that's not going to happen,
Yeah.
and we were right.
So Jen, Billy, and Agatha keep walking towards their last trial, but they are actually brought back to the beginning of the road where they took off all of their shoes, and they realize that the whole time they've been walking in a circle. And so they all, obviously, tensions run high because they don't know what they're supposed to be doing. Billy is like, you know what, fuck this. I took my shoes off in respect for this road, but this road has been doing nothing but torturing me, so I'm putting my shoes back on. And apparently, in that act, they unlocked the final trial, and they all awaken in body bags in a very cellar morgue type looking
Yeah.
place. Agatha recognizes it as her basement, more or less, because they see the staircase going up. Um, and okay, this was the part of this episode that I wasn't truly buying, because I
Okay.
just feel like too many things were happening and
Mhm.
being absolved really quickly,
Okay.
when in reality, like, the other witches like had full moments and arcs to like
Episodes.
work
Yeah.
through.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. This is
literally
this is
episodes.
exactly what I wrote down too, which was poor
Yeah.
Jen got the shit end of the stick in her death,
Yeah.
because it's like Deborah Jo Rupp, she was a comedic relief, whatever, and then like that big moment at the end, whatever. Like she had a minuscule send off, but she was only there to add a little comedy. And then you get
Mhm.
this huge Lilia episode, you get this huge Alice episode with the song, and like
Mhm.
everything feels like it had this big like finality to it. Even Agatha at the end of this one, but like, oh, poor Jen, like
Yeah.
this was just so breezed by.
Yeah, absolutely. So she is just talking about how she was bound by this random guy in Boston, and Agatha's like, "Oh, I didn't realize that you were had passed through there." And through like very unspoken, like literally it goes unspoken, they both realize at the same time that Agatha was somehow the person that bound Jen. And
Yeah.
so, but she says that she was bound by a man. And I just like, I was not following the connection. And I was like,
Hmm.
okay, Marvel, like just throw this in the end, like last minute. So
Yeah.
then all Jen has to do is perform an unbounding spell where she ties Agatha's hands together and just repeats like, you do not have any hold over me, over and over again, until she is gifted her magic back. And because she has been given what she wanted from the road, she disappears. She goes back to her regular life.
Yeah.
So she made it out. Good for Jen.
Well, okay, so she did make it out, or did she die? Because like I think this was a little unclear for me too. Like I took it as she died too, but I guess she just left the road, right?
No, I think she just like went back to her regular
Okay.
life.
Okay, so
Because the
she didn't
same
die,
thing.
but her character
No.
send off. Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
her send off was still minuscule. Maybe that's why, because she didn't actually die. But yeah,
Yeah.
the death of the character, I should say. Yeah, the send off was not good. Okay.
So then Agatha realizes like, oh, Jen got what she wants from the road, so I should just like help Billy get what he wants from the road so that we can all leave. And so I feel like it's so interesting with Agatha because she kind of has this like sacrificial moment where of course at first she's like, just blast me with my power, give me what I want so I can leave too. And Billy's like, oh, so I can be left here to rot. And Agatha's like, okay, fine, like I'll help you find your brother. And in doing that, she couldn't have known that she was going to find that seed in her locket to like, plant the dandelion and be able to leave. So she kind of has this weird back and forth where she has this sacrificial moment for Billy where she's willing to be the left one last. Whoa, what did I just say?
last one left.
She's willing to be the last one left, but then she totally turns on him at the end. Anyway, so Agatha and Billy sit down and hold hands, and Billy tries to look for Tommy's like subconscious, like through like the echoes of like the ether, wherever his like soul, I guess, for lack of a better word, is like floating around. And Agatha's like, all right, like now that you found him, like look for a place for him to go. And he's like looking around for all these different kind of bodies that Tommy could access. And he comes across a kid who's being drowned by a group of bullies and who ends up dying. And he's able to, you know, allow Tommy access to that body. And Billy says, am I letting this kid die so that Tommy could live? And before, you know, she can answer him, he gets what he wants, so he leaves the road. Agatha says, no, sometimes boys just die. And obviously she's talking about her son in that moment, Nicholas Scratch. And
I think this is why I was so confused, because like that when they disappeared, it wasn't like there was no like prolonged shot of it. It was just like a cutaway, and he just wasn't there anymore. Same with Jen. So I was just always like, wait, so did they die? Did they just leave the road? Like what is going on? Because then the way she delivers that line, some boys just die, it took me a second to be like, wait, you're talking about her son. Are you also talking about did Billy just die? But then he doesn't. But it's one of those things that it's like you said, this moment just rushed so many things and threw so much like new information at us at once that it felt like hard to kind of grasp. I didn't think it was well directed just in that space too. The next one we're about to talk about was pretty cool, but like everything else leading up to that, it just was a little disorienting.
Yes. No, yeah, for sure, Dale. I get that confusion. But then we see Agatha is left alone. Her time is about to run out, but she opens up her locket because now I'm assuming that the hair that's been in her locket has been like the hair of her son. And so she's you know, kind of reminiscing with that for a little bit, like kind of being like, I feel like this was a moment of her to be like, you know what? Even if I die right now, like at least like we'll kind of like have this last moment together, and then maybe even like see each other in the next life kind of thing. And within her locket, she sees that she's been gifted this like tiny little seed, and she uses her tear to wet it, and she plants it in the crack in the ground that was left behind when Billy was taken off the road. And she plants it, and a dandelion grows and then turns into one of those like wishing things where you can like blow on the seeds and then make a wish.
Was it dandelion or daffodil? I get those two confused.
Dandelion.
That's a dandelion. So what is a daffodil?
A daffodil is a different flower. I think it's a fancier flower, where a dandelion is more like a weed.
Okay. Cool. Kelsey's taking the time to look it up.
Oh, yeah. Daffodils are much more attractive.
Oh, those are daffodils. So dandelions. So what are the yellow? Dandelions are yellow and then they turn into the wispy things, or are those two separate things as well? Okay.
No, I think dandelions, like after their petals die, they turn into the wispy things.
That's why, because I always thought the daffodil was the thing you blow, and the dandelion was the yellow. So the dandelion is both, and the daffodil is
the dandelion is both. Yes.
All right.
No, I'm not a botanist or anything, but that's my educated guess.
My name is Dill, and I don't even know what the fuck a daffodil is, so it's okay. Daffodil to me was Daffy Duck taking on my name.
Yeah, in a way, sure.
Yeah, sure. Let's move on.
So Agatha is able to escape the road. She was in her cellar because she escapes out like the kind of the cellar doors going into her basement, and is running into her backyard, where she is greeted by death because she did not uphold her end of the bargain. She did not get Billy to go to death willingly, so now she has to go with death. And so they kind of have this final battle where first death, Rio screams at her, I'm thinking death by 1,000 cuts, which is obviously an expression, but also the title of a Taylor Swift song. So I thought that was fun. She like throws a bunch of shattered glass at her. Agatha has all these cuts all over her now. She calls her a coward, and then sends a kitchen sink flying at her through the house. But because of Lilia's advice from the last episode, Agatha was able to put together, oh, when she calls you a coward, hit the deck. So
Yeah, that was a cool moment.
Agatha drops down.
As
Yeah.
soon as she said it, I was like, oh, like I like that. I like that.
Yeah. And then, horrific moment.
Mm.
Agatha pulls, Rio, starts using some roots out of the ground to cut one of Agatha's Achilles heel, which is like the worst thing I think for me, that's like the worst way to harm someone in like a scary movie or just like anything at all. So I
Yeah,
just
just
like
like
hated that.
slash the back of the heel. Yeah.
I don't like it. I don't like thinking about it. I don't like talking about it.
All
Let's
right.
move on.
Well, you brought it
So
up.
Rio, I just, this is what happened in the episode, okay?
I know. Sticking to the facts.
Rio ties Agatha up to a pole of some kind or a tree, but that is when Billy, as a Wiccan, comes in to save the day.
Freaking cool.
And honestly, whatever he used his telekinesis to push her out of the way, but Rio moved so quickly out of frame that I thought Tommy had just run in and like pushed her for
Oh, you thought it was
a
Tommy.
second. Yeah. I thought that I was like, oh my God, are they working together? They already found each other. This is crazy. But it was just Wiccan. And so him and Agatha kind of have this moment where, he's going to help save her. And, they have this like buddy bonding moment. I wrote my notes out of order. Hold on. Oh, yes. Billy then says to Agatha, don't take it all, and then blasts her with his power so that she can have her power back. And luckily, Agatha does kind of release the hold, release Billy's blast from him so that she doesn't take it all, which makes me question if, like all of a sudden she has control over it. But when it came to Alice, she was like, I couldn't control it. I'm so sorry. So I'm like, was she lying to us then too? I don't know. So now Agatha is back in full Agatha Harkness mode. She has her big purple like drapes on. The hair's blowing. She's ready to take on Rio. But Rio is kind of much too powerful for Billy and Agatha. And so Agatha kind of gets hit. She's bleeding from the mouth. She's like, listen, kid, we're not going to be able to take on death. It should be me. You should go. I'll sacrifice myself. I'll take one for the team. Billy, having a very harrowing moment, stands up and says, take me. I'll go with you to Rio. And Agatha's like, well, you heard him. Take him. And Billy's like, I was going to volunteer, but then you were supposed to be like, no, don't take the boy. And they kind of have this like really awful moment. And I'm like, oh, this fucking bitch. And I thought that like for a second, I'm like, oh, this is just an act. This is a bit.
I thought so too.
But then he still had to he accessed her brain through, his mind powers and was like, Agatha, I know you can hear me. Stop. Is this how Nikki died? And that is kind of the catalyst that makes Agatha turn around and is like, okay, fine. Another young boy doesn't have to die at my hands. Yeah. I'll go.
Yeah, before we get into what happens right after that, which I'm sure the internet is just exploding and wants us to talk about. But I was so confused because it was like it seemed like they had this tender moment when she saw him and then the power transferred and then she kind of had that look in her eyes, the evil Agatha back again, but there was still that kind of kinship of I'll go, no, you deserve to stay. That was all I believe after she'd gotten her powers still. So it doesn't make any sense how right away she would be like, oh, you heard him. That just felt like such an extreme character. But if the whole time she was deceiving him, but I don't think she was deceiving him. It seemed honest and then dishonest and then honest again. I wish they had just been she's like, no, son, this is the way it has to be. And then at the end, he gets into her mind and changes her mind. Fine. It was the I'm gonna help this kid to I'm not just kidding to I'm gonna help this kid again. I felt that was unnecessary because it really just made it kind of muddled what exactly we are meant to take out of this relationship. If you want to make her a villain, make her a villain, but then don't have her be like, it should be you. Have her say it should be you and then give a little smirk when he turns his back or something to give us that indication, because it seemed like as soon as he said you could take me, she was like, all right. She just kind of changed her tune so quickly. I don't know. It almost feels like something that was lost in rewrites, you know, like that moment, you know?
Yeah, and it just feels like this entire time, this entire show, like, has been struggling with whether or not to just make Agatha a full-blown villain or make her kind of an anti-hero that's able to have a redemption arc through this show.
Mhm.
Like, I wasn't really sure, like, how we were supposed to feel about
Right.
Agatha
And
the
this
entire
relationship
time.
itself, because we've gotten so many like, "You're just like your mother, I hate you," and you've also gotten like these
Yeah.
endearing moments where it's like, "Oh, maybe," like they want us to believe in those first few episodes that he could be her kid. Like that was the whole point of calling him teen from the get-go and not
Mhm.
revealing it, is because they wanted you to have that like idea, "Oh, maybe it's her kid." And you can't have that and then, you know, also have, you can't have both things at once. And I think if you wanted to have both things at once, you had to make it clearer exactly what her objectives and her intentions were. Because now she just seems
Yeah.
wishy washy, and she loses her power because of that. In a story sense, like she loses all her, you know, strength as a character now, because now she can't make up her mind. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, yeah. It was whiplash for sure. I didn't need that moment. But then Agatha decides obviously that she's going to be the one to actually sacrifice herself, so she runs over and gives Rio a big old kiss. And I was like, "Oh, the kiss of death. I got it." Which is like why they were going to kiss earlier in the show.
Yeah, that was another question I had.
Or
So how have they never hooked up before?
that's what I'm saying. I'm like, "Okay, so maybe
Or maybe it's like
they
they've never kissed, but they've done other things.
sure,
Like a
maybe.
lot of hand play. I don't know. I really don't know, because it's like, no, because
Yeah,
it
maybe.
again doesn't make sense. If you kiss death, you die. Did she maybe not become the full embodiment of death until we just saw her a few episodes ago? Is that why?
Hmm.
But it seems like she's always been death. Like it
I
doesn't seem like a surprise to Agatha.
I think
I don't know, right? Like
I think
that's the
yeah.
confusing shit where I'm like, they clearly have to know Marvel fans are smart enough to be like, wait, if they're kissing and she dies, does that mean every time they've kissed in the, like, have they never kissed? Like they make it
Yeah.
very clear that they're exes, and I'm, you know, not to say relationships you have to kiss, but it seems weird that you wouldn't, especially when
Yeah.
you're as attractive and charismatic as those two. So I don't know, I don't know.
Maybe maybe with other kisses she's able to control like her power. And
Mm,
so in this kiss, she was like, okay, well, I'm just going to make this one lethal. Whereas with other kisses, she's kind of able to hold back.
mm,
Maybe.
interesting.
So obviously, we see Agatha die. She gets swallowed up by the ground. She decomposes very quickly, becomes a bed of flowers and mushrooms.
Yeah.
And
Love that
because,
visual. The visual was so
yeah,
cool. And it was such a cool
yeah,
parallel to earlier when we saw her build, like plant the seed. Like I love that kind of visual metaphor. It was good.
yeah, absolutely. Um, and so Death is, turns to Billy and is like, well, you can go because this bargain has been upheld. I no longer need you, which is crazy because I thought her whole problem with Billy specifically was that he stole a body, but now she doesn't seem to care about that anymore.
See, this is where I think the beginning was clear. Unclear. I thought that was what happened in like the jail cell basement scene.
Hmm.
That's what I kind of gathered. Was like that was him finally like breaking free from the other one. And then we see him next scene, he's Wiccan.
Oh, so you don't think he's like William at all? You think he's just like Billy and like William's dead?
Well, I don't know. I don't, I really don't know. They didn't make it clear.
Oh,
And
okay.
we'll talk about the last scene, I think could like indicate a little bit of it too. But yeah, I feel like maybe it already happened and we didn't realize, where he kind of just fully, I think when he became Wiccan, he kind of fully embraced Billy, is what I gathered. Was like, all
Mm,
right, William's
mhm.
no more. I'm Billy now. But I don't
Sure.
know. I don't know.
So then Billy walks through Westview, very reminiscent of Wanda walking through Westview at the end of WandaVision. He puts up his hood. All of the citizens of Westview kind of gather around him. And I just love that he just like got in his car and just like the image of him like being in like full Wiccan, like uniform get up and then just like driving like a Subaru was like super funny to me. I was
Mhm.
like, the juxtaposition here is really, really interesting. Um, and so he goes home and he goes up into his room and he starts looking around his room and he notices he has a Lorna Wu poster hanging up.
Yeah.
He studies his Wicked Witch of the West figurine. He has a tree figurine that looks very similar to the
His
landscape of the road.
Yeah, his room is decked out. He's got a cool room.
Yeah,
He's also got like a Buffy the Vampire Slayer poster there. He's got like Carrie, Rocky Horror Picture Show. He's got a Trans
yeah,
Lives Matter flag. I was like, this kid's
yeah.
got it. He's got it down. He knows what's up.
He has leaves hanging from some kind of art project. He has a portrait hanging up that looks like the portrait of the very beautiful house that they were in for the first trial. And he pulls out a Ouija board and he has some shoe figurines. And he realizes that looking around his room, all of the things in his room have all been things that have been on the road or that they've seen on the road. And he says to himself, "Oh my God, it was me." And then someone chuckles behind him, and we hear "boo," and Billy screams. Combine their names, Willie and Billy. That's their ship name. Um, Billy screams, and the
Willie the
episode
Boo.
ends.
Sorry.
Willie the Boo.
Okay, two questions. What does he mean by
Yes.
it was me? And I mean, I think the second question's obvious. Who is this Boo? You know?
Okay, so first of all, I think the Boo is Agatha.
Yeah, I think she's a
It
ghost.
sounded like her. And
Yeah.
then second of all, because on top of him looking around his room at everything and on top of the flashbacks of Agatha constantly telling him like you're just like your mother, you and your mother have the same tell, yada yada yada. I'm taking such a jump and I am going to in a direction where the road was completely invented in like Billy's head, kind of like how Westview was completely
Mm.
built in Wanda's head.
Yeah, and all those different staged television episodes of like, you know,
Yes.
uh Daisy Jones and the Six and what other episodes did we do? Like there was another one that was
Oh, you're talking about in this show?
oh, like
Oh, so
Desperate Housewives. Yeah, like
Des-
all those different moments were all
Desperate
hidden.
Housewives, Stranger Things,
Right, that was another one. Stranger
and
Things.
then the last one was just them all as different witches that obviously you see around his room, like the Wicked Witch, and
Yeah.
I'm sure he has a Glinda figurine
Yeah, yeah,
somewhere,
yeah.
Maleficent, you know,
Yeah, so he
those
probably
things.
created all that. That's a good theory. I mean, I think that makes a lot of sense. That definitely checks out. And that would make sense why he would say it was me, because he was like, "Oh, I did this. I made the road."
Yeah, yeah.
I like that. I like that theory. I'm down for that. And I agree with you that it's Agatha. Okay, so the big questions are have a very fair prediction to them. I mean, we could be wrong, but it seems like
Yeah.
we're both on the same page for that. I didn't really think about it. I was just more so, Kelsey will tell me. But the Agatha thing, I was like, I think that Boo was Agatha, but I guess that's not
Uh-huh.
as much of like a oh, I figured it out as much as it should be, because it's called Agatha all along. So of course she's got to be in episode 9. So this seems like the
Right.
valid reason. I did tell you, I forget if it was off air or on another podcast or something. You were like, you haven't watched both episodes yet, right? And I said, I haven't, but I did have a moment spoiled. It was in this episode. It was the kiss. I had the kiss spoiled for
Oh,
me. So
okay.
I know nothing about episode 9. I have no idea where the show's going. And
No.
I assume we'll just get kind of answers for everything rather than like new plot developments, if that makes sense. But I'd be
Mhm.
willing to be surprised. I mean, it's going to be a short finale too. So I have no idea. But Kels, where do you think we go from here now? Kind of cycling back to our initial question. Where do you think we go?
Well, we have to find out who that Boo was, if it's an iteration of Agatha, if it was like the original Agatha, because if everything was happening in Billy's mind, then did that
Oh,
final battle even happen? Did she even die?
oh,
Yada,
wait, that's
yada,
a good
yada.
idea too. Yeah, if
Yeah.
everything's fabricated, yeah. So he just like fantasizes about Aubrey Plaza and Catherine Hahn making out then. So is he actually gay?
Who doesn't?
Right. True. But yeah, that's a very, very good point. Like all these deaths, are they real because they're all in his? That would actually be really nice if like none
Hmm.
of this actually happened. But it's also like
But it's
it
also
would
like then
feel
what was the
it feel
point
like
of
yeah,
everything?
exactly, exactly.
And
Maybe it
also
would feel like
like
it cheated
if
us.
everything has been fabricated, then who's to say that Agatha's not still like the nosy neighbor, not even realizing that she's still like trapped in a
Right.
shell. But I guess like that really cuz Billy was the one who freed her cuz he performed the spell.
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be crazy if after all this we just go back to square one where she's still like the mayor of East Town. Like I'm like,
Yeah,
oh my
yeah,
god.
yeah.
But I could see
Agatha of
that world.
Eastview.
You know, I could see
Yeah.
that world. But it also feels like if that is the case and they're gonna like I feel like how long is the final episode? It's very short. It's only like a half hour long. Like I feel like you need like a full hour to explain all this now. Like,
I
you know.
I think this one was an hour and I think the next one is 45 minutes, I think.
Yeah, but still, I don't think that's not enough time. But we'll find out. I
No,
mean,
yeah.
that'd be
I
very
also
interesting.
yeah.
Yeah, and I do
I
think the biggest question is going to be the, like you said, the Billy William. When did they separate? Are they still the same person? What is going on there?
mhm.
Because I took like the crack in the floor being like, all right, Jew William's dead, Billy's gone, and then he comes back as a Wiccan. Like that's what I interpreted. But also like that whole scene we've talked about how unclear it was because I thought Jen died. So you
Mhm.
know that goes to show. I hope we get
Yeah.
clearer answers, but I'm excited. I mean, I'm always excited to see what happens next. This is one of the shows that I think
Yeah.
is best at keeping us excited for what's happening to come.
Yeah.
You were in the middle of saying something. I'm so sorry. Goss.
No, I was just gonna say, I definitely don't think that we're gonna see the last of Rio either. I think that
Mm,
she probably makes an appearance in the last episode. I don't know that for sure, but I also think that we might get some answers revolving around Agatha's son because we never
yeah.
really delve into that and what happened there. And at the end of I'm at the point where I'm pretty sure something happened between Nikki, Nicholas, Agatha, and Rio where Rio came to her and was like, "Well, it's you or the boy. So who like do you want to go now or
Hmm.
like do you want him to live or like what do you want here?" And Agatha in like a very selfish like place was like, "Well, I don't want to die yet, so I guess yep, well, here's the boy."
Yeah.
So,
No, it's a very good
cuz
theory.
I think we definitely have to find out what happens there.
Mm,
Um and and the Billy Wiccan, not only Billy William, but also Billy Tommy,
yeah.
and yeah,
And we did have a prediction last time. You did think we're not seeing Wanda, right? We still don't think we're seeing Wanda.
no, I
Okay.
don't think
Yeah,
I'm
I
seeing
agree.
Wanda.
I think at this point, if this is what the series was building to, they'd build a little further. But it really feels like it's
Yeah,
staying on Billy, which I'm fine with.
yeah,
I think we're good. Um,
yeah, for
but it
sure.
also makes more and more confirmation that she is officially gone. Because yeah, like I'm starting to let that acceptance sink in. Which I know Zach is gonna have a tough time with because I know how much he loves her. But I know a lot of people are gonna have a tough time. But I think now with like that book that got published where they confirmed her death, and then like, did you hear
Sure.
about that? Yeah, I think you told me about
I
that. Maybe.
yeah,
Yeah.
you did tell me about that. I'm still not in the camp of like Wanda is dead. I just think that Elizabeth Olsen is done with the MCU.
Yeah. So she's. I mean, they're not gonna bring her back as a different actress, right? I mean,
No, no, no.
maybe.
I'm not suggesting that either. I'm just saying like the door. I just think that there's not even a door, but like a window open for if they ever wanted Wanda to do something again and Elizabeth Olsen was down, I think that Wanda would do something again.
Gotcha. All right.
But
Yeah.
I think that's a very small window. That's a doggy door that's actually
Yeah.
open, actually.
And if anything, then like the stunt double from episode one can be, have pride in the fact that she was the last Wanda Maximoff in the MCU, lying on
Right.
that table with her hands. Unless that was Elizabeth Olsen, but I figured we'd know if she was
No,
by now. Um, any other thoughts, Kels, on this episode going forward? I think I liked this episode a little bit more than you, but we both agree the last one, the Lilia one, was still the strongest one.
yeah.
But what are we feeling going into this
See,
ending?
I ended this. See, this is the only reason why I don't think I liked it as much as you, Dill, was because by the end of episode 7, I was very satisfied with what I had watched. And like, if this was a TV show about Lilia and Lilia Calderu, and that was the final episode, I would have been like, oh my God, what an incredible series that was.
Mhm.
Because it just felt like very final and very cathartic. With this one, the first thing I thought at the end of it was, oh my God, I have to watch the next one. But it just got so late at night, and I already knew that I had to rewatch it and take notes on it for this. And I was like, I
Yeah.
can't stay up and watch the next one. And which is why I texted him, was like, actually, I changed my mind. Please, let's just watch the one episode.
Okay.
But so I just felt like I wasn't satisfied with what I had just watched in that one. I was too looking forward to the next, whatever the next
Yeah.
extension of the story was going to be. You know what I mean?
Which, like, these did come out on the same day, episodes 8 and 9, so that could also be why they released it together, because this is such a cliffhanger. But I do also think there's something to be said about, like, if you end on a cliffhanger, like, give the fandom a week to speculate, because then you give them the answer right away. That's why I love the whole weekly binge model. I know people hate it. I know people love watching stuff all at once. It's the thing Netflix has been doing. But I actually like the weekly. I think, for WandaVision, for this show, it really just adds that kind of buzz every time you finish an episode. You can now, like, talk about that episode instead of just, like, letting it be a mix of a bunch of episodes. Like, when you binge a series, it's like, if someone's like, what do you think of episode 4? You're like, which one was episode 4? Because I just watched 8
Right.
hours, But if it's like
Right.
a weekly thing, you can talk about each episode. I mean, that's what the success of Sopranos and Game of Thrones and Breaking Bad and Succession, all these iconic shows were built on. So I like the fact that we're kind of taking it week by week, and now we get to kind of live in that suspense before we watch a finale, which I will probably be watching right after this, because I just need to know. Then we'll podcast about it next week. But yeah, that's episode 8. Very exciting. Kels, one final plug. Where can they find you, and where yeah, that's it. I was gonna ask you follow-ups, but you just told me the answer to my other one. So
You can find me on TikTok. It's at Kelsey A. Kilp. And my letterbox is the exact same thing, at Kelsey A. Kilp.
great. Thank you, Kels. And make sure to take a picture of that pie so we could share next time to show everyone how it turned out. Because
It
you
comes
built
out
it up.
good.
You can't just end it there. You can't leave us on a
Yeah.
cliffhanger. But thank you guys for listening. Dylan_Randazzo Twitter is where you can find me. I don't know from how much longer. I won't deactivate my account, but I'm also seeing a lot of people going over to Blue Sky, so I might check that out as well. Just to have a little bit of a fresher change of scene over there, because it's a vile place. Dylan Randazzo 417 at TikTok, though. That is a very fun place. I still love TikTok. And you can find the Dill Pickle Movie Network on TikTok. We're popping off there, getting thousands of likes every day, which is fun, or thousands of views. Dill Pickle Movie Network YouTube is where you can find the main show. Check us out on podcasts, give us 5 stars, do all that stuff as we head into our final stretch and our final few months of the year before we take a much needed rest in January. But thank you guys so much, and we'll see you next time.